Jordan Schmidt, lab number 3, the functional movement screen. We will be discussing each movement and giving a score. We will first start with the deep squat. Here you can see in my starting stance with the back of my heels touching the board. And they are shoulder width apart. And if we zoom back out, you can see that my arms are overhead with the bar in my hands and my arms at a 90-degree angle. We will first watch a squat, and then I will go back and critique it. So we will watch my deep squat. And that was not good, so we will go back and watch it. So you can see that as soon as I begin squatting, I lean forward very far. And if we draw lines, that is pointing and that is pointing, they will intersect, which is not what we want. And as we continue on, I lose balance and fall back. We will not put that in normal motion because that is just horrendous. So I tried it once more, this time with my heels on top of the board to give more range of motion and still my arms overhead. And if we watch a squat, this time you'll see that I don't lean forward and I get much farther and I'm able to complete the squat. And again, if we draw these lines that I drew before, they should probably never intersect since I have compensated to not lean forward. And if we want, we can watch an anterior view just to see. There's the bar of 2 as well. But you can see how far I squat and I'm able to, and it does not look like any crazy compensations happening. During my deep squat, I scored myself a 2 because I had to put my heels on the board to complete the squat. Next, we have the hurdle step, and I'm just going to put the score on right away. So I scored my left and my right with the 3. And here we have the starting stance. You cannot see, but my toes are touching the board, and the bar is on my back and upper neck. First, we will begin looking at my left side. And as I step and touch my heel and bring it back to starting position, if we step it right there, when we zoom in, you can see that my leg and my knee are parallel. So if we take these lines away, so this is the leg that we're going to be looking at. It does not look like my tibia and fibula turn that way to compensate to get over this bungee. So we'll watch that one more time. Again, my hip, knee, and tibia and fibula are in line. We will now be looking at my right leg, so we'll watch this one. And again, right there, if we zoom in and we draw these lines, we are parallel and in line, and there is no odd shifting this way or odd shifting that way. So we are in line, which is what we want. So again, since I didn't really notice much, I scored myself a 3. There was a little bit of imbalance, but there's very minimal. Now we have the inline lunge. First we look at my right lunge. I think for the most part, I had stayed upright. So I scored myself a 3. So we will watch it and then I'll critique. Good. So if we go back to this position and we zoom in a little bit, you can see that the bar appears to be still pretty upright for the most part. And if we go down to the knee, when we zoom in a little bit more, you can see that the knee touches the board, which is also a good thing to score a 3. And if we look at both of my feet, they're in line, they're staying in the sagittal plane, and they're staying at the marks that they need to be at. So if we watch one more time, watching all this, right there you can see my feet don't move, and the bar is there. So again, scoring myself a 3. Moving on to my left lunge. So we will watch this, and then again I'll critique it. So let's watch it a couple times. All right, and if we go back to my first one, right there, yikes, we'll zoom in again and look at all this stuff. So we'll look at the bar. It doesn't look as horizontal as my other one, so that's why I gave it a 2, because it looks like I had to lean forward just a little bit. And if we zoom down to the feet, looks like my feet are okay. This one is over the line just a little bit, but this one seems to be doing fine. And my knee, if we really want to be particular, it looks like there's just a little bit of spacing under there, so it does not look like I got all the way down. So we can zoom out and watch that once more. There it is. Again, scoring my right side a 3 and my left side a 2. Next, we have the shoulder mobility test. Prior to doing this test, there's an impingement clearing test that needs to be done, so we will watch this video. What you're going to do is put your opposite hand, or your hand to your opposite shoulder, and raise your elbow up and down. And if you have pain, you will not do the shoulder test, and you will result in a score of 0. So we will watch my test. And I had no pain on either side, so we can move on to the actual test. Before beginning this test, we measured hand length, and mine came out to be 7 inches. So the first test, starting with my left arm, you will notice that it gets measured, and it comes out to be 4. So that would be a 3. And if we want, we can get rid of this. My second attempt on my scratch that. My first attempt on my right arm was a 5, so I would still be scoring a 3. I had scored a 3 on my left and right due to being under my one hand length. Next, we have the active straight leg raise. We will be starting with my left. For this test, the patient lays with their tibial tuberosity right below the board as seen, so we can see right there. The examiner measures a midpoint between the ASIS and the middle of the patella, which this would be your midpoint marker. During this test, the patient will have a flexed foot and raise their leg until they can't anymore while maintaining a straight leg. So we will watch mine, and we'll see how far I get. And then the examiner will measure from your medial malleolus down to the ground. And so as we can see here, if we want to look where this is, it's not quite in line with my marker. It's kind of hard to tell on this camera, but my leg was definitely beyond this marker on the ground there. So since my leg was straight and my foot was flexed during this test, I scored myself a 3. So if we want to watch it one more time, here we go. And that's where my score of a 3 comes from. Same thing, we'll move on to the right side. I scored myself a 2. And we'll watch why. So we can go, and she measures me up at the top here. But if you look, you can see that my leg has a little bit of a bend to it. And that was not caught during the test. So I'm going to actually rewind the video to where my leg is straight. And I'd honestly say about right there is where my leg is a little more straight. So I'd be giving myself a 2 there. So you can see it's a little straighter. Next is the trunk stability test. For this test, there's another clearance test that should be performed prior to the actual test. For this, the patient will do a spinal extension. And this is basically what it is, and I did not present any pain. During the test, for this test, my thumbs were in line with my chin and beneath my shoulders, and we can watch myself do a push-up, and then we go again. Eventually, there we go. And if we rewind, you can see I am pretty flat, and I gotta zoom back out. And as I push up, here again, we'll draw another line, still pretty flat, and up at the top, flat. So since my thumbs were in line with my chin and below my shoulders, from what I have seen, I performed the 2 push-ups with my body maintained in a straight line, and my spine did not seem to lag at all. So I give myself a score of a 3 on the trunk stability test. So if we want to watch that one more time. And the last test is the Rotary stability test. There is another clearance one for this test. The patient will be in a child's pose or in a spinal flexion clearance, so looking like this. I did not present any pain, so I was able to move on and do the actual test. Here we will watch that I attempt a unilateral movement on my left and right side, and lost balance there. And if we go to the other side, I wasn't as bad, still lost balance. So in this position, you can see that I really had to shift my weight to this side that is on the ground, and I almost fell over but saved myself. And if we zoom in, you can see that my foot does not stay connected to the board. My right side was not as bad. It was still a mess, but we then moved on to the diagonal movement, where on my left side, if we are going to refer to the leg that is moving, so right now we're going to look at this leg. So we're going to call it the left side. You can see that I'm able to complete the task, and then on my right side, the diagonal movement was also completed. If we go here, I guess a little issue. Actually, I think your feet are supposed to stay like this. So I think the good thing is that my toes are on the ground. Yeah. For my left and right rotary stability test, I score myself a 2 because I was able to complete the bilateral movement, and a 3 would be completing the unilateral movement, and that was a mess, so we're not even going to talk about that. This is Jordan Schmidt. Thank you for watching my lab number 3.